Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves.
We'll get going. Hey, good morning. It's Scott Groves with the On the Edge podcast. We're in a little bit different setting today. I am not smoking a cigar in the podcast studio because today I'm interviewing a couple of guys from Belgium. So we're doing this at about 6:30 in the morning. A little too early for a cigar, even for me. I've got my good friend G. Russell Reynolds on, who we'll link to the podcast that I did with him about 3 years ago when we first started the podcast. Had him on, super dynamic guy. And the thing that he talked the most about when we were on that podcast was his Mastro Defence System, the martial arts, the self-defense, the training. And fast forward a couple of years, he told me, hey man, Fred Mastro, the man from Belgium, is coming out to do a seminar in LA. I'd love to have you come. And I'm like, well, let's get these guys on the podcast and talk about it. Fred's got a crazy story, which I will let G. Russell give you a little bit of background on him. But Frank is the designer of MDS, Mastro Defence System. And it's a combination of everything, right? And his jiu-jitsu instructor, which many of you who watch the podcast know, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about 4 years. Didn't start till I was 41, which is much too late to start jiu-jitsu, but it's okay. We'll get into it. Fred's jiu-jitsu coach is 4th degree black belt Frank Beels. They both train. And G. Russell, what can you tell us about Fred to get this kicked off?
It always sounds so weird when people say G. Russell. Just Russell is fine. Right. I know it's respect, but what I can tell you is both Frank and Fred are black belts. Flavio Barang, 9th degree red belt under Helio Gracie. So obviously their lineage is very respectable. Just to read off the bullet points, because I can just talk about how much I love these guys for hours. But Fred Mastro, executive protection expert, bouncer in the most dangerous city in Belgium for over 20 years. 2nd degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, founder of Mastro Defence System, fight choreographer for the movie Taken with Liam Neeson, personal bodyguard of Jean-Claude Van Damme, top-level security clearance with the Belgian government, one of the only people in the world, trained George St. Pierre, Wanderlei Silva, Bob Sapp, fight choreographer for over 26 movies. One of his MDS videos alone has over 27 million views on YouTube. So obviously, there's something legitimate. Obviously, there's something. If guys like GSP and Wanderlei Silva are training with Fred, there's something to be said about what he's teaching. And Fred, you got your black belt under Frank, if I'm correct. Founder and head coach of Absalom Academy, 4th degree black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 3rd Dan and Kyokushin Budokai Karate. Level 4, which is the top level, instructor in MDS. Participated in numerous international championships across Belgium, Germany, Netherlands, Luxembourg, former police officer, if I'm correct, which I believe is what brought you, Frank, to MDS, because you're like, wait a minute, there's more that's needed than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I would love to share Fred's seminar in LA with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community. And as I addressed with you, Scott, I know there is a pervasive belief amongst a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that Brazilian jiu-jitsu is all you need. It makes you completely bulletproof and everything else is bullshit. Let's address that.
I saw a horrible video. I don't even know why this came across my feed because my Instagram feed is mostly jiu-jitsu, hot ladies, guns, and some family stuff. And I saw this horrible video, Fred, where a guy, quick wrestling takedown, had to do it in an arm bar, was holding him there, thinking he was doing the right thing instead of just snapping his arm and ending the engagement. And the dude with his free arm grabbed a knife, rolled over, and stabbed the dude in the belly 10 times, and he died. And so I think when you're really good at a individual combat sport, whether it's wrestling or jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or whatever, you kind of lose focus of like, in a real scenario, like you experienced 20 years bouncing in this bar in a dangerous area in Belgium, the environment kind of matters. And that's why I think you created the Mastro Defence System. So can you tell us a little bit about your evolution in real combat, not just combat sports?
Yeah, super. Thank you so much. I'll start with traditional martial arts, like everybody, for sure. Some boxing, some judo. Now it's more than 25 years. I work as a security bouncer and VIP protection. Now it's more than 25 years. And when I start like a bouncer, I come from Pencak Silat. Pencak Silat will be very, very dangerous style. The style I learned, it was very, very effective for the street. And in one day, I meet one guy in Brussels, Frank, this guy, Jean-Pierre. I meet these guys and I say, okay, let's go for a fight. We put some protection. I'm talking about more than 20 years ago. We put all the protection and now I stop you easily with my elbow, with all the stuff that traditional martial art. And he was smiling. He said, Fred, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm the boss in Penchaxilat. Let's go. It was a very, very, very bad day for me. It was an incredible day because I realized that only one style is not good. Because 20, 25 years ago, just a few people in Europe that train MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It was more kickboxing guys, boxing guys, street fighter, because in the street, you need to be vicious. This is very important. This is my job. After this, I start to train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and I go to many instructors. But they are, like I love to say, no bad student, only bad instructor. And every time when I go to one of the guys, he tried to break my arm, he tried to break my leg, he don't share his knowledge. And one day I meet Mr. Frank Beels, and he's the unique guys. He gave me the love of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how to understand Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how to work. And after many bad comments, because I have a fight in MMA 20 years ago before Frank, it was a 60 kilo difference, 2 rounds of 5 minutes. But it's just because we have a problem with this guy for a racket, in nightclub. He want to racket my nightclub. And I say, okay, let's go in the parking 1 week later to talk. But they come with many people with gun, impossible to fight. And after, I signed for this fight. But at the beginning, I signed from Valetudo rules. No rules, no gloves, no time limit, headbutt, knee, penalty. I'm a big fan of soccer for the street, penalty. But 2 weeks before, the police called me and they say, oh, we are in Belgium. All of this is prohibited. Only kickboxing and grappling. This is the rules change. But I go, I lose at the decision. I was not ready. And after this, I start to train very hard with my instructor, my professor, Mr. Frank Beels. Now it's 18 years old, I think. I'm not second degree, I'm first degree, not second degree.
The people that don't know, Silat that's the Filipino knife fighting, right? Like, I think the story goes when the British colonized them, they took away all their steel, all their guns, all their knives. So they started learning how to fight with bamboo. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we have many style of Silat. It's like Kung Fu. You have Kata, the name is Lanka. You have traditional Silat, you have many style, but I work, the Siliwangi style is the commando style. The commando style is very, very more effective. It's not like a traditional Silat, like a dance. Yeah, for sure, the traditional Silat is not effective in the street because it's not adapted. But the Silat I trained was very, very adapted for the street, but not adapted for the police, for the security. This is why I need to change. 20 years ago, I need to change because it was too dangerous. And we cannot use this when you work like a bouncer or VIP protection. But now it's so many years. This is why when I have the change opportunity to train GSP with a knife, I'm talking with knife. I don't show another style because just now we understand. If you see now, he loves to play with knife. He have many sparring with knife. He discovered AccuStrike because me. Now he's a big fan of knife because he understands that only Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or only MMA is dangerous because when you are on the ground, empty hand, 1-1, no problem. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will be good. But against very vicious guys with weapon or rifle or a pen, just we talk about a pen. If I put a pen on your face, the fight is over. But this is the reality. And this is why we work a lot with Frank to understand, okay, we need to adapt the BGG for the street and to be aware about the environment, like you said, to be aware about the hand. I explained to you, one of my friends, he have a very big scar here. He have a problem in a bar, in a nightclub. He put the guys on the ground easily, like a white belt. But he don't see the bottle on the floor. The guys take the bottle and he break his face, and the fight was finished. But for sure, on the ring, my friend beat these guys in 10 seconds, no problem. But in the street, it will be different. And this is why if you train self-defense now, you need to train boxing, wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But don't forget, like I tell many times, wrestling, it's very, very, very important. Because if you work in security or if you are with your wife, did you think the best way is to go to the ground? Me, not. My job is to take my wife, my children, and go back home as soon as possible. That's it. And in this case, if you mix MDS and BGG, will be more easy to go back home quickly. Very, very important. And again, when we talk about Silat, we talk about Kali, the violence is changed, correct? It's not like before. The bad guys, they train all the style now. And only the traditional art is not enough. You know, you need to work all the style. If you want to be good, you need to work all the style. The people, they want to compare Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, self-defense. No, use the good technique at the good moment. This is very important. Sometimes Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will be better. Sometimes Kali will be better. Sometimes Silat will be better. Take the good technique at the good moment. But the most important, don't forget to look the hand of the guys, the hand, because this is the surprise.
You know, I'll tell you the most vulnerable I've ever felt. So I was in the Army before the global war on terror. I was an okay wrestler in high school. Then I boxed for 10 years. Then I started jiu-jitsu. I still train a lot with firearms. And the most vulnerable I've ever felt is I have a friend here in Vegas who's an expert in Silat Kali. And we were doing some training together. And he's like, okay, I want you to see if you can draw your gun, cock it, and get a shot on target before I can stab you 3 times. And the speed at which he was able to pull out a plastic dagger and basically slice my face into a million pieces, I was like, oh, I never want to get in a fight in my entire life, because if somebody has a knife or a pen or a stabbing device, I'm going to be done before I can take them to the ground or pull out a gun. Like, I'm more of a de-escalation guy now that I'm 45 and my testosterone's a little bit lower. But I never want to get in a fight, because when I saw that experience of how quickly he could deploy, thankfully, a plastic knife, there was no time to do anything else. My gun would have still been in my holster by the time he stabbed me in the throat. It was terrifying. And I was like, oh, all that work for 20 years of wrestling and boxing and firearms means nothing if I get in a fight with a parking lot with somebody who knows how to use a knife.
This is what we train in MDS. It's a group of work. I'm not the best. I train the alpha. I don't train cheap. All my instructors are alpha. Okay, they call me alpha, but I'm not the only alpha. We are all alpha. I train all the people to become alpha. Don't forget that in Europe, the mentalities and the weapon is different than US. This is why sometimes it's ridiculous to talk about this, because in Europe, is prohibited. It's only MTN. I work in security. Frank Beels can tell this. It's only in Belgium and France security. It's empty hand. No pepper spray, no baton, nothing. Just empty hand. It's a little bit different than US. You have a gun, you have this, you have this. Some state you can carry a knife. In Europe, it's completely prohibited. Only bad guys have weapon.
Frank, can you talk a little bit of that experience? Like, you come from a policing background, then you've got a decade of jiu-jitsu experience before you meet Fred. How eye-opening was it for you on a self-defense or restraining a criminal? How eye-opening was it of, like, maybe what you didn't know about fighting on your feet?
First of all, jiu-jitsu is very practical for police. When I start with my job, it was in 96. I was practicing Kyokushinkai. And when I needed to arrest someone, sometimes I had to punch him because I didn't know nothing else. Okay. After that, jiu-jitsu, I understand how to master someone without hurting him, to choke somebody without hurting him, and the intervention became more clean. Okay. For the point of self-defense, I would like to make a difference between what I will call old jiu-jitsu and the new generation Jiu-Jitsu. Because Fred and I were learning the old style Jiu-Jitsu. We came from Flavio Bering, a grandmaster, from the origin of the Jiu-Jitsu. And in this time in Brazil, every moment someone can enter your academy to defy you. So you must be ready to fight at every moment, at every day at the training. And it was not a game, I make 2 points, I make 3 points. No, it was to defy you, vale tudo. Okay, so the old Jiu-Jitsu, the technique from before, was for vale tudo, the real fight experience. Also, if you see the Gracie program, it's self-defense. And don't tell it's the solution, but it's a solution. I went 2 times in Brazil, and 2 times I trained there 3 classes per day. And each class we're practicing self-defense, and after that, ground technique. Each classes, it was self-defense technique. Someone grabbing you in the neck, backwards, the hair. It was always, but in Brazil, the old style Jiu-Jitsu, if you see most of the, not all, but most of academy now, they train for the sports, to make points. I'm in your guards, I want to go out of your guard, I have 3 points. I put my partner on the ground, I have 2 points. Okay, escape from the mud, escape from this, escape from that. That's okay, but it's a sport. And that's a pity, but most of graduate practitioners in Jiu-Jitsu, new generation, are not able to escape a punch. They are very, very, very effective on the ground. They have a very effective ground game, but in the streets, they can avoid a punch.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between to be good in the sports and to be good in self-defense. I wanted to make a difference between the old Jiu-Jitsu and the new Jiu-Jitsu.
You mean in a self-defense situation, I'm not going to just sit down on my butt and start scooting towards you?
For example, you see a lot of camera video like this on YouTube making joke about this, but that's the reality. So you see someone entry in your house and you purchase the thief on your butt. No.
Yeah.
No.
It's funny. I go to 10th Planet here, and we're really lucky to train under Andy Varela, who has more of that grappling wrestling style, more of like the 80cc rule set where, I mean, if you go to a 6 p.m. class, it's almost like a Division I wrestling, right? Because he wants to take you down, take your back, and choke you. He has no interest in like pulling guard and try to enter the legs and whatnot. And I would much rather see or trust Andy protecting my kids in a fight versus most modern jiu-jitsu practitioners, because they sit down, they try to enter the legs, they try to break your ankle, and it's like by that point you've already gotten stabbed 5 times. Like, I'd much rather see Andy fight in a real fight, because he's going to try to take you down, take your back, and choke you before you can do anything. So I feel very blessed that although I'm learning jiu-jitsu, I'm learning at a gym that like prioritizes grappling and wrestling, because I think that's more practical to self-defense.
Yeah. A lot of technique of what I call the new generation Jiu-Jitsu, it's very good to practice on the mat, but not on the street. Because on the street, you will not roll so easily than on the mat. On the mat, you work with barefoot, without shoes. It's totally different. In the street, you can face 2 people or 3 people. When you train Jiu-Jitsu, it's with rules. You have one guy in front of you, you have to submit him, but his friends will not come to interrupt your fights. Like Fred says, in Jiu-Jitsu, sports, it's without a weapon. You take a knife, you take a pen, you take something else. The game is totally different. I already saw Fred do a ground game with a pen. With my 4th-degree black belt, I will not go against him with a pen.
I think this is a good point. Can you talk a little bit about the style of that inside fighting where there's elbows and palms? And I mean, it's just watching your videos, it's absolutely devastating, where it seems to me the whole idea is devastate somebody in 3 seconds so you can get away before they pull out a knife or a gun. Is that a fair assessment of what you're teaching?
Yeah, exactly. And don't forget, when we talk, like Frank said, don't forget in the street, the clothes. This is very important. When you have a jeans, your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is difficult on the ground. How do you put the triangle? When you have some pants, it's impossible. Your jacket, the shoes. This is why I teach, and I learned this, and we talk with Frank about this. I'm not talking about this one is not good, this one is not good. We take a move and say, okay, this move in this situation will be okay, but in another situation, it will not okay. Okay, let's go to work both, and after we use the good technique at the good moment. But when I work like bouncer, when I'm VIP protection, the distance is close. It's not 2 meters with boxing. When I in front of my door, the people, they talk to me less than 1 meter. It's not 2 meters. And when the attacker come in the street, he don't send you an email. He come close to you. He said, okay, I'm sorry, what time is it? I'm sure this is the reality. Or you are in your car, he open the door and he put you a knife. This is my way. I'm not talking, this is not the best way, but this is my way, and I try to be one of the best in this way. But to be good in this way, we need to work all the style. And for sure, I agree 100% with Frank that I'm a big fan, and I work only the whole Jiu-Jitsu. The whole Jiu-Jitsu is not point. The whole Jiu-Jitsu is to finish the fight soon as possible. That's it. And this is what I applied for my MDS. When I work very close, I use all the style, Kung Fu, Muay Thai, elbow, because I love to play with my weapon. Where is my natural weapon? Elbow, headbutt, this is good. Why? When you go to the school and you go, they teach you that your head is more stronger than a punch. The bones of the hand is not strong like the head. It's stupid to put this on the head because at the school they said, okay, the head is more strong. And don't forget, when you are in the street, no gloves. This is different. If you have boxing guys, I spar many times because I'm a big fan of boxing. And many people, when I spar on the back, without gloves. And the coach, oh, Fred, you are crazy. Put your protection, put your gloves. I said, why? My way is self-defense. And in the street, I don't have this. He said, yeah, but maybe you break your hand. And this is what I'm talking about. 25 years ago, one French champion of boxing. Also, he had a fight in a bar 1 week before the world championship. Okay, he win, but he break his hand. The championship was cancelled. This is the reality. Okay, he win on the bar, but after this 2 months, it was finished. This is why on the ground, you always need to be minimum a pen, because many countries, you go to England, if you have a knife, you go to jail. But a pen, tactical pen, you can use to survive, not to attack the people. When you saw me, many people, they say, okay, Fred, but you beat the guys, but he don't respond. It's normal. Show you the final product. When your teacher show you Jujigatame, did he break your arm? He don't break your arm. He show you the final movement. This is what I do on the on-up. If someone come to you, you just need before to analyze the situation, to analyze the risk, to analyze the place, to analyze if they have camera, testimony, the police and all this. Okay, if you need to fight, what is the goal of the fight? He just come to disturb you. He just come to take your wallet. Okay, if he come just to take your wallet, give the wallet. That's it. Give the wallet. It's not a problem. But don't touch me. Don't put your finger on me. Many people, they want to fight with me, okay, blah, blah, on internet, blah, 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 blah. I don't have time for this. Come, put your hand on my face, and after you can talk. After you can talk. Because on it, the keyboard warrior is different.
Are very different. I don't think any form should be anonymous.
Hey there, Scott Groves with a quick interruption to the podcast. Sorry about that, but I just want to take a quick minute to announce our sponsors here for the podcast, and that sponsor is me, Scott Groves. It's actually the revenue that we generate through doing mortgages here at Neo Home Loans and the money that we generate from the coaching program that I run, Consolidated Coaching for Loan Officers, coaching by loan officers for loan officers that helps support this podcast. I really started this in 2021 as a passion project during COVID, and we're excited to bring you a new episode every week, but this only happens if I'm making money in my real full-time job. So please, if you or somebody you know is looking to buy, sell, or refinance a house, our team is licensed in almost every state in the country. And if you know a loan officer who's looking for sales coaching, personal development coaching, lead generation coaching, please get in touch with us. Scott at the Scott Groves team. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to support our other endeavors, which is mortgage financing and loan officer coaching, which allows this podcast to exist. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
You mentioned something a little bit earlier that I want to go back to. You were talking about, I train alphas, I don't train sheep. What does that mean for a mindset, right? Because it's like, if you do get into a self-defense situation, and, you know, I mentioned my kids, they're 7 and 9. In the context of jiu-jitsu, they're always like, well, who would beat who? Would Richie beat this person? I was like, okay, look, as your dad, my first job is to avoid problems. My second responsibility as your dad is to de-escalate the problems. I'm past the age where I want to try to get into a fight. The third solution is to try to get away. And then if there's no other choice, then you fight. But I'm guessing what you're talking about is, I train alphas, I don't train sheep. There's got to be a mind shift change, right? Where it's like de-escalate, like just avoid the situation. But then when it's time to fight, you have to end the fight quickly. So can you talk a little bit about that mindset, I train alphas? Because you mentioned that a couple of times, and I don't know that I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. When you say all my video, I have a comment yesterday. The guy said, okay, but you break the neck, you break this, okay. But first, like you said, we discuss, we look the distance, we look if we have an escape, we look what is the goal of the guys, if you have a gun, no gun, if it just, okay, after this, second is to avoid. Like you said, I agree 100%. I want to avoid as much as possible. But when we arrive to the fight, you need to understand what you want. Did you want to become a victim? No, I train people to become a predator at this moment, because we don't go to attack people. If one of my students go to attack people, ask to Russell, he have a problem with me, trust me. When you go to the dojo, you have a big problem with me if you go to attack people for free, you know, trust me. You have a big problem with me after. But if you need to survive, if you need to save your life, you need to become an alpha, not a beta, not a gamma, an alpha. Alpha is he fight to survive. The alpha wolf, he don't fight to play. He don't go to hunt for play. He hunt to eat for his family. I fight only for survive. If I need to survive, why we talk about respect? Why we talk about rules? Survive is survive. This is one of the points. The second point is, where is the fight? When you are working or when you are with your family? This is different. If I'm working, I use more Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and I use more choke and knee. Okay, if I don't work, trust me, I don't go to choke you. If you come to me, it's because you decide to come to me. I try to de-escalate, I try to talk, but in one moment, I finish you as soon as possible. And this is why I'm talking about I don't train sheep, because the sheeps, they don't have the mentality of warrior. My guys, I want warrior mentality. To be ready, like Frank said before, the one punch without gloves in the street is very painful. When we train, like we train in MDS, very hard, okay, maybe give me a punch, but if I don't sleep, the fight is not finished. The fight is not over. This is very important. When you see my fight, it's 10 minutes. He beat me 10 minutes, but I stay on my feet. This is why I talk to my student. I'm not the best. I'm the most fucking vicious, okay? And I'm a fucking warrior. This is very important. and to become an alpha just because I want to push all my students to become better. My job is not to be the best. My job is my student become better than me. This is my goals. When I saw my students, they are better than me, I'm very happy. I don't have ego. I'm very happy. But after, the most important is all the people, civilian, police officer, special force, they send me an email, okay, Fred, MDS saved my life. Because in this situation, I used this move before, but it was not so effective. Now with MDS, I can save my life. In US, I have many police officers that said me thank you against knife because first they take the gun and they shoot the guys. Okay, but maybe you can control the guys. You can disarm the guys without shooting the guys first. This is my goal, is to adapt the technique at the good moment. It's always the same discourse. What is the finality? But if you want to survive, you need to have a very, very hard mindset and you need to switch. I love to say only to beat bad people, you need good people with very hard level of warrior mentality. This is my goals, to teach to my students, don't go attack people, don't disturb people, don't misrespect to the people. If someone misrespect to you, okay, you can run, you can walk. But if someone want to beat you, you just need to analyze at this moment, he want to beat you one-to-one, just regular fight, or maybe he can kill you. And in this moment, you need to switch. And this is why I talk about alpha, because at this moment, they became predator. This is very important and not victim. But for sure, I agree with you 100%. Before this, we need to talk, we need to de-escalate, but the most important is to analyze the situation. But to analyze, you don't have 1 minute, you have 1 second. It's not a ring, it's not like on the map with referee, or you have time to create your fight. You know, like boxing, MMA, they have time to create the fight, to organize the fight, correct? In the street, you don't have this time. You need to finish soon as possible. And like I said, violence is different. Now it's the same in every place, but violence in Belgium, for the security guys like me, is empty end. You need to have good technique, and 100%, it's close, very close. When I have a guy in 2 meters, he was standing like a boxing guy, I'm just waiting. I don't go to his style. I'm just waiting. And when he closed the distance, I introduce my style.
Yeah.
Or I try to calm, I try to discuss, to break the distance. But trust me, when we are very close, MDS is very sensual.
Yeah. And I think unless people have seen these videos of like police interactions where it seems like everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden there's extreme violence, right? So Frank or Fred, can you talk a little bit about how quickly, because you mentioned, you know, if you're going into a UFC fight, you have months to prepare, the style, to train. When violence erupts on the street, it's so fast and it's so vicious. Can you talk a little bit about that, about how quickly things can escalate in your experience, either in the police world or in the private protection sector?
Yeah, just me and after Frank. So you don't forget also the weather. When you work like a bouncer or like a police officer and it was 0 degrees, Frank know this when he worked like a police, and 0 degrees, oh, -2, -4 degrees. Trust me, you don't want to do boxing. You don't want to do boxing because the weather is very, very cold. And at this moment, you have many suits. You have your jacket, you have a big shoes, you have a big pants, you have 2 jackets. And this is very different, the style at this moment. This is why the mix between MDS and BJJ, this is why. Thank you so much again, Frank, for all you share with me. It was an honor. And this is why we grow together. This is MDS. We grow together. All my guys, this is why I talk again, all my guys are alpha. But the most important, when we are all together, it's a group of work. This is very important.
a little bit about that in your years of policing experience, just for the average citizen that maybe doesn't understand how quickly violence can escalate?
I started police at 1996. In this time, there was much more respect over the uniform, over the police. Now, by the time I see it in Belgium, and I know it happened too in other countries, the people become more and more disrespectful with a uniform, with police. Same with firemen. They wear a uniform, and you see that in Paris, you see that in Brussels. They start a fire and they just wait the firemen to come, and then they throw stone to the fireman. In some towns, when the firemen are called to a place for a fire, they call the police to escort them, because the young people are waiting them to throw items, to throw stones. It's, yeah. So I didn't know that in the years 90, but 20 years later, it happened. The violence is changing with the years. And the law is always in favor of the criminals, not in the police. If a criminal hits a policeman, it's no good, don't try again. If a policeman hits a young boy, oh boy. In Belgium, there are so many associations for the protection. If a policeman shoots or hits or hurts someone, it's the beginning of a lot of problems. So for me, Jiu-Jitsu was a very, very good option, because quickly start to understand the effectiveness of the choke, because the choke is clean and you don't see anything. The people is not hurt, nothing. He just fall asleep, and I can put the handcuff, bringing to the office, and yes, after some training, I had my favorite move, because also, like you said, I start to de-escalate, I start to talk, and so. But sometimes it's not enough. And I had to do something, or I had to protect my colleague. And I had an incredible fast choke, and the fight was immediately finished.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear from Fred and Frank, like, when do you make that decision that it is time to escalate the violence, right? Fred, you mentioned if you put your hands on me, like you can be a keyboard warrior, you can mouth off to me at the bar and we're just going to walk away, de-escalate. But when do you know physically, right? Because it's been 25 years in the army since I got in a bar fight. When do you know it's time to escalate and finish the fight?
Yeah, this is very important that Frank said about the rules. Is the same for the private security in Belgium. We cannot hurt the people. They protect the bad guys, like in US, like all around the world. Yeah. They protect the bad guys, because 3 people against me, but I have many problems. They go to the hospital, 3 people. I was empty-handed. But I was many problem, because they said, "Oh, Fred, you are a master. You need to control the guys. How you can do the choke against 3 people? It's ridiculous. Don't go to choke the people against 2 or 3 people. It's ridiculous. Don't do this, because the second one maybe he stab you or he punch you. Is not a good technique at this moment." Right. This is very important too. When I talk that we have the same rules. And it's the same when you are civilian. If you hurt too much the guys, you have problem here and in US too. This is the new world. This is why MDS is just to boom, boom and run and go back home. Don't stay 10 minutes to fight the guys. We don't have time. I would like to, and Frank can said, if he is with his wife and children, did he use more MDS or more Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? In the street, I know what style he tried to use, because again, it's a mix between MDS and between Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But don't think MDS is not the best, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not the best too. But together, it will be a very good combination, for sure, 100%.
And Fred, I noticed in a lot of your training videos that I was looking at, I was watching some of your instructors and some documentaries you have online. It seems like there's a lot of elbows. Can you talk about the power or the devastating approach of using your elbows over our fists that have all these little tiny bones in them? And like you said, like even boxers with 12-ounce gloves, after a fight, they will have broken their hand, right? So just imagine without a 12-ounce glove on. Can you talk about the style that you have stole a little bit from Kali and Salat and kickboxing and Muay Thai? It seems like there is a whole lot of elbows coming in.
Yeah, because with the elbow, it's like a knife. You use your elbow to cut the face. You have two ways with the
Show us
elbow.
your elbow real quick, Fred. I can see that you've been practicing a lot. Show us your elbow on the screen. It looks, yeah. You've got a lot of damage on your elbow right now, so it shows me that your training is serious.
Yes, and don't forget to turn the finger down, because you don't need to hold with this part. If you put your finger down, you have only the bones. And after, it's like when you shoot, you need to choose the target with the elbow. If you want to break the face of the guys, okay, you go to the face. But Russell saw the video. I have a fight 3-4 months ago in the nightclub, and I have the video, and I put the elbow on the carotid. Like this, he sleep immediately. He go to the ground, he sleep. No injury, no police, no ambulance, no hospital, and it will be better. But against many people, against 2 or 3 guys, I use a lot elbow, headbutt. And if you use your elbow with the hips, it's very, very effective. Look, when you see the Muay Thai fight, the real one, not the European or US Muay Thai style, is a little bit different than Thailand. When you use why, they cannot use the elbow at the first round. Did you know this? Why?
Too devastating, right?
Exactly. They use this at the second one on the third round. In MDS, we use this in the first second.
Yeah. There's this psychological effect called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's like, if I'm really good at loans, I also think I'm really good at other things. And I think some people that have maybe dedicated their entire life to jiu-jitsu or MMA or kickboxing, they think, well, I'm really good at this, so I must be bulletproof, right?
And also with the elbow, what is good with the elbow, that you can hit all the part of the body. Russell knows this. You can go elbow to the sternum, to the biceps, to the triceps, to the clavicle, to the neck, to the leg, to the knee. You have many, many targets. With the elbow, you can hit all the body. With the punch, it's only the face. It's 90% the face. But with the elbow, you can hit many parts of the body. This is very important. This is why they don't use in UFC. Look, at the beginning, Valetudo, look the elbow. It was much more elbow and the Valetudo than UFC. Look the whole Valetudo, elbow, headbutt, many times. If you look the fight of Vanderlei Silva in Valetudo, look how many times he put headbutt, elbow, always, because it's very, very effective, and you protect your body. Because if I break my elbow, I have also my head, my 2 hands, and I have all this. But when you break one hand, it's very difficult to fight with only one hand. This is very, very important. Again, I'm talking about to avoid, I'm talking to save the people. My job is to train you to avoid the fight and go back home. This is my job. This is what MDS is dedicated. It's to avoid the fight and back home. But sometimes to avoid the fight, you need to finish the fight.
Somebody who does Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or again, they have this Dunning-Kruger effect where they think they're really good at this thing, so they feel like it makes them bulletproof. But to your point, one elbow to the face or the clavicle will very much change their opinion. Do you think there's a danger in people that specialize and only do one style, feeling like they're invincible, and then they meet somebody with a more expansive style like MDS and they're in for a rude awakening? Does that happen?
I understand your question, and it's the story of my life. Because when I was young, I started with traditional karate.
You saw the Karate Kid when you were a little kid like me?
Yes, karate traditional and a lot of kata. Once I met a guy from the Kyokushinkai, and I was pretty sure I can fight against him. I was young, I was strong, I was a brown belt karate, and this guy was a white belt Kyokushin. Oh boy. I discovered for the first time of my life the low kick. And I was like an old man to go home because it was impossible for me to avoid one low kick. So, in my opinion, I was strong and I met another style and That's why I started with Kyokushinkai. Yeah, and later I started with Jiu-Jitsu, and because of Jiu-Jitsu, I met Fred. I met Fred for the first time during a seminar in a discotheque, and I trained the bouncer there, and whoa, my God, what's that? I need to do that. So yes, if you only focus on one style and you are 100% sure what you do is the best, I hope for you, you never met a crazy guy on the street because you just get punched.
This is why I changed my name. I come from Spanchak Silat, and after I created the Mastro Silat Defence System, I changed to become Mastro Defence System. It's just a respect of the style, because Mastro Silat is just one style, it's Silat. But Mastro Defence System, it's a system. It's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, boxing, Krav Maga also, because if you need strategy, Krav Maga is a very good way. If you need speed, fluidity, Silat and Kali is the best way. If you want to train weapon, you need to train Kali, not Krav Maga, not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not MMA. If you want to be good with weapon, you need to go to train with very good knife people. And for this, he inspired me a lot, is my friend and my brother, Doug Marcaida. He inspired me a lot in a knife fight. And now we work together also with Doug Marcaida, with Kali and Silat. Now he adapt his style with some of my moves too. Very short move and to finish the fight. But I'm a very big fan, and I'm a student, Doug Marcaida too. With knife, it's incredible guys, and he have an open mind. We need to respect all the style. This is very important. And another thing, everybody want to be BJJ, MMA, UFC. How many people they go to UFC? Just a few people.
100 in the whole world.
Yeah, exactly. The same in boxing. The same in boxing. In Europe, they have 30,000 boxing people only. But how many champions?
Right.
Okay, this is sport. This is sport. We need to respect all the style. But sometimes now they call me to the police some years ago because they train only Krav Maga, and the bad guys, they put the police officer on the ground and they take the gun. The instructor of Krav Maga don't train BJJ, don't train wrestling. How you can talk with the guys to defense against guys on the ground if you don't train BJJ? If you don't train this, you are not available to disarm the guys. You need to have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling or Sambo. Don't forget the Sambo too, because we talk only about BJJ. But don't forget, Sambo is also a very good system. Sambo is very, very important. This is why I love to train with everybody. Russell, no, I have 52 now, but I take my back and I go like a student in many styles, wrestling, boxing, and I come back home with my head in another way, but it's not a problem. I learn. I'm not afraid. I'm afraid about to die on the street.
Yeah.
This is what I'm afraid. On the map is not a problem. You have referee, you tap, and the fight is finished. Okay, you lose, no problem. But you go back home. For the street, it's a little bit different. This is why when I work with many guys of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this is the funny part of the seminar. Russell loved this. If one of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys want to come and he finish me before I stab him minimum 2 or 3 times, seminar is free. No problem.
I want to address that. The seminar coming, because there is this pervasive belief amongst Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys that everything else is bullshit. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is all they need. And again, everybody here, ton of respect for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. My ground game's not that good. I'll tap like a typewriter, no problem. But there's more to it. So Fred's challenge is any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or MMA guys that want to come to the LA seminar May 3rd and May 4th. If you want to come to the seminar, you think MDS is bullshit, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or MMA is all you need, no problem. Here's the challenge. If you can tap Fred before he can use this AccuStrike, it's classic. It lights up, it makes a sound, so there's no guessing if you got cut or not. If you can tap him once before he can give you 3 lethal blows with this AccuStrike, seminar is free.
Somebody's going to take you up on this, Fred, and I'm going to enjoy watching you stab them 3 times before they get you on your legs.
I want to be clear. It's not to misrespect, but just to understand the people. Okay, you are good, but if you talk about self-defense, okay, I'm a bad guy. I have a knife. Okay, I want to see if you can stop me. If you can stop me with a knife before to go to the ground, or if we go to the ground, you put me on the ground. I want to see if you can still stay alive after 10 seconds. I'm talking with knife. It's not misrespect. It's just to understand the people. We need to work both. We need to work all together. Don't tell that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is better, MDS is better. No. Against knife, you need to work many styles. If you have only one style, you died. That's it. Okay, maybe you can survive on one fight, but if you have a guy with knowledge with knife, you died. This is the reality, you like or not. This is the reality. You have many fights on the ground. You see the guys on YouTube, you can see they fight on the ground. And in one moment, one of the guys take a gun and shoot the guys because he carry a gun. He don't use a gun at the beginning of the fight. But after one moment, he feel that he don't win the fight and he decide to take the knife or to take the gun. And what's happened? You died. This is why I want to explain when I teach. This is why we make this joke challenge. It's just to understand the people. Okay, first, look the hand. Look, you need to control the arm. If the guys have a knife, you need to be focused 100% on the knife. You need to grab my hand. You need to grab my arm. But don't forget, I have 2 hands and maybe 2 knives.
Fred, for you, who this has been your lifelong passion, and you obviously get those emails from the police officer that says, oh, you've saved my life. I can only imagine the pride that comes from that, and it keeps you going. For the average civilian who maybe hasn't experienced violence, or they live in this fantasy world where they think they're never going to experience violence, tell them why it's important for that average civilian to come to a seminar of yours and get some training in MDS so that they know what to do. You know, I think about my wife traveling to Mexico with our kids because her family has a house down there. It's like, I would like her to understand this so that if I'm not with her and something happens, like, does this work for women as well? Maybe talk about why this is relevant for your average quote unquote citizen.
Again, at this moment, what is your goal? Is your wife is with the children. She needs to look what is the best target to stop the fight. What is the best target? You have the throw, you have the eyes, you have the elbow, you can break the elbow, you can break the knees, the ground shot. Ground shot is a tool. You can use glass, you can use, this is why I teach to be aware, to look the environment, to look the place, to use all you can use to survive. But first, when I teach MDS, I teach also to analyze before. We are not in the Disney world. This is very important to understand. Why, if you are a woman, you go to Mexico in the bed town at midnight? Just explain to me. That's it. I don't have technique for this moment because it's stupid. It's stupid because you know that in this case, you have 90% chance to have a problem. My job is to train you, to teach you how to avoid the problem, not just the fight. This is very, very important. And when we talk about this, I can send you all the proof. I have an email to one of my guys, his son, 14 years old, and against knife, I love to break the knee. I teach to my student to go to try to break the knee with your leg, you know, like in UFC, because they use Silat and Kali in UFC. I smile because they don't talk. This is from Silat and Kali. When they kick the knee, it's from Panantukan and Pananjakman, from Filipino style. This is incredible. And I train first, if you are not a good fighter, if you are not a high level, try to kick the knee and run. And this young boy, 14 years old, he was at the bus station, and 2 guys come with a knife. And he said, okay, give me your bag, give me your phone. Okay, maybe you can try to choke one of the guys. Maybe. What's happened after this? You can run, but they run after you. Maybe you can try to call the police. but I don't know if you have time. And these young guys, he go to the knees of the guys with the knife. He go down. Oh, for sure, his leg was not so good, but his father, he have problem with the school, but not with the police. When the police arrives, they say, okay, you make a good job. Because 2 against 1, he have a knife. And his father come to me at the dojo. He said, Fred, I'm so sorry. My son have a problem, blah, blah, blah. I say, he make his job. That's it. Do you want to see your children at the police or at the church? It's a choice. At this moment, we talk about survive. We are not talking about sport. This is what I explained. I like boxing, the jab against knife. I work a lot jab on the throat, not on the face. Against knife, a good jab on the throat and run. This is my job. And don't worry, you don't kill the guys. I'm a fight choreographer for the movie. Look, in UFC, how many people die? And they put many punch on the throat. Nobody died. This is a legend. When someone dies with a punch on the throat, it's because accident.
And Frank, kind of same question for you. I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of civilians be the victims of violence. Why is it important for your average civilian who doesn't think they're going to run into a guy with a knife at the bus station? Why is it important for them to train in something like MDS?
I started police in the 90s. The violence changed. Before, you can easily work in Brussels without any problem. But now, just impossible because of bans, because of drugs. The criminals there is just incredible. So, of course, like Fred says, what are you doing there? Okay, if you don't have anything to do, don't go there. But you take the tram, you take the metro, you take the bus. You can meet someone, they just want to punch you just for his pleasure. 20 years before, it never happened, but now it happens. 2 young guys that just want to make the experience of punching someone. So they choose an old lady, madam, she turns on, mop on her face. Why? And the young is satisfied, he got the experience of the contact and the violent change. So police is no more a solution because you don't have time. You have an aggression, or can you take your phone and call the police? Do you think the bad guy will just wait to the police? No, you have to avoid to de-escalate or to fight. It happens more and more often. You have to be able to feel the danger sometime before it comes. If you see 2 people coming in front of you, sometimes it's better to change the side of the street. And if you see these people also change the sides, you feel something's wrong. And you can enter a house, you can enter a shop. If you feel something is following you in the parking, don't go in the parking. That's prevention. And prevention, where do you learn prevention? In self-defense classes.
I love it. So Russell, man, bring us home. Talk a little bit about what people can expect to learn at the seminar that you guys are hosting in LA, May 3rd and 4th, 2 different days, same seminar. Talk a little bit about that, where we can find everything. We'll link to the event in the YouTube, but Fred, go ahead. Last thought.
What MDS is about, like Fred is talking about, that's part of what people can learn at the seminars in LA. And for me, getting to learn MDS from the founder of the system, Fred Mastro, is like getting to learn basketball from Michael Jordan. Like, it's like absolutely an amazing opportunity. Thank you for coming again to LA, Fred. But it's for everybody of every level, absolute beginner to black belt. We teach the situational awareness. We teach what Fred is talking about, how to analyze. And because MDS is based in biomechanics and science, not strength and athleticism, a woman half my size can effectively defend herself against an attacker that is my size or bigger. Like, that's the difference. And it's not teaching sport, it's teaching to end the fight, avoid it if at all possible. And if it's not possible, end it quickly, survive and go home. So I would encourage everybody who's watching this to come to this seminar if you can, but get the tickets quick because this is going to sell out. We've got 2 separate days, 2 locations, one in the Valley, one in Hollywood. You can attend both days if you like, get the most bang for your buck. And I want to just thank Frank and Fred both for taking the time to share this, because I want this to appeal to everybody. The open mind of MDS Like, yes, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yes, Krav Maga, yes, Silat, yes, boxing. Like, bring it all in to make yourself the most effective you can be to defend yourself against the reality of violence on the streets today.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you on May 3rd and 4th.
Go to see MDS North America. Thank you so much to my master, Frank Beels.